Hello everyone, today is 2nd of June. My name is Sahil and welcome to the newspaper analysis. Now guys, before the newspaper analysis, let's have a look on today's GS order. So today we will be taking a quote from Mahatma Gandhi ji. So Gandhi ji had said that section 124A is the prince among the political sections of the Indian Penal Code dedicated or designed to suppress the liberty of the citizens. Now guys, this particular code becomes highly relevant into the context of recent Supreme Court's directions, where the Supreme Court had said that now the time has come that with respect to the sedition, clear-cut guidelines or clear-cut directives are to be framed. It cannot just be utilized to intimidate the journalists who are exposing the critical deficiency of the government. So guys, into the context of sedition, in GS paper number 2, this particular code can be utilized. So that is all. And now let's take the newspaper analysis in detail. Now guys, taking up the first article. So here we have clubbed two articles from the Hindu newspaper which talks about tracking the status of the orphan children. Now guys, this particular data we will be analyzing into the details and it will be relevant for our GS paper number 2 under the social justice children related issues. Now guys, we will be taking first of all little bit of background information. See, you know that the second wave of COVID-19 has been very much deadly, and into this many of the children have lost their parents and they have become orphan. Now guys, if we talk about the numbers of such children, then we can take some of the reference from the Ministry of Women and Child Development, and according to the ministry there are 577 orphans. Now guys, apart from this, there is one more reference that we can take, that is the National Commission for Protection of the Child Rights. Now according to NCPCR's portal, that is the Bal Swaraj, it has been said that rather the number of orphan children has been huge and it is more than 9,300. Now these are the children who had lost their parents either or they have been abandoned due to the economic miseries of the COVID-19 pandemic. And guys, out of them, there are these many children, that is the 1700 who have been orphaned. So number one point comes here that even into the government data, there is huge discrepancies at the 2 point. Now see, you don't need to remember the absolute numbers, but this is a point to be noted. Now, as these children have been orphaned, guys, they are highly vulnerable and according to the NCPCR, they are prone to child trafficking. They could be pushed into the child labor, and after that they might also resort to the antisocial activities and they might go into the bad company. And friends, you might be knowing that right now, according to the United Nations Population Fund, India is going through the demographic dividend window, which is the golden phase of India, and these children are actually the future of India who will be giving us the demographic dividend. So we cannot ignore these children. Moreover, apart from this particular aspect also, guys, you might be knowing that there are the directive principles of state policy into the Indian Constitution. And according to article number 39 subclause F, state has the responsibility that the developmental conditions are to be provided to the children. Their childhood and all such kind of needs are to be taken care of. So states has a huge responsibility into this context. Moreover, there is also the United Nation Declaration onto the Human Rights 1948 that has been signed by the India. Now, according to this particular declaration, it has been said that the childhood needs to be secured. So, therefore, keeping all this particular thing into the mind, few days back, guys, government came out with the financial aid package for the children who have been orphaned during the pandemic. First of all, let's see that what government has done. Now, government had said that the students who have been orphaned, they can be enrolled into the Kendriya Vidyalayas or into the private school and the expenditure will be borne by the government. Second provision is that the students who are into the age bracket of 11 to 18 years, they can also be enrolled into the Sainik school or the Navodaya Vidyalaya if they don't have any place to live. They can avail the residential facilities also here. Then guys, thirdly, it has been said that all these children, they will be enrolled under the Ayushman Bharat Abhiyan, and under the Ayushman Bharat Abhiyan, they can avail the health insurance up to 5 lakh rupees. Then it has been said that a corpus of 10 lakh rupees per child will also be created. Now this 10 lakh rupees corpus, the moment when the child will reach the 18 years of age, every month he can withdraw 5,000 rupees for his personal expenditure, for his higher studies and all such kind of things. And after he reaches the age of 23 years, the entire lump sum amount of that 10 lakh rupees can be withdrawn, and he can use that particular money for further business or further life related ventures. So guys, this was the scheme that was announced by the government, and it was said that expenditure for this will be coming out for the from the PM Cares fund. So this was the good thing which has happened. Now guys, coming into the article that we have seen into the Hindu today. So though the scheme has been announced, but still there are no modalities of this particular scheme which has been finalized onto the ground. Nothing is existing. So into this particular direction, the Supreme Court has asked the center that when you will be framing the modalities, just into the press release, this scheme is existing. So you need to come out soon with the modalities and with the other procedures. Now guys, as we are talking about the children who had become orphan, there is one more dimension that is coming out. See, nowadays you might be hearing that onto various of the social media platforms such as the Facebook, Twitter, etc. There are many of the NGOs who are advertising, and even the public spirited individuals also who are advertising that a particular child has become orphan, and if any person wants, then they can adopt them, and all such kind of things are happening. So guys, now we will be talking about the adoption into the India for these orphan children. Number one point comes that any advertising for an orphan child with respect to his or her adoption is illegal. So that thing cannot be done. Then secondly, guys, the entire adoption process into the India is carried as per the CARA, that is the Child Adoption Resource Agency. Now, whenever a child becomes an orphan or a child who has not the parents, then those child first of all are declared as legally free by the Child Welfare Committee. Now, the Child Welfare Committees are established under the Juvenile Justice Act. And once they declare their status to be legally free, they can be adopted. And for that adoption process, you need to approach the CARA, that is the Child Adoption and Resource Authority. Now, the CARA is under the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Now, once you go there, what will be happening? The CARA's volunteers or the people associated with it will be preparing a home study report for the couple who wants to adopt. Now, into this home study report, there will be all the details such as what is their financial health, what is their physical health, how psychologically they are stable, what are the conditions of family, etc. Apart from that, there is also the child study report which will be prepared. Now, the child study report entails all the health conditions of the children, all the complications if it is having any kind of disability and all such things. After that, if the parents agree and if the CARA is satisfied with the parents' abilities, then the adoption can take place. So guys, this is the entire adoption process into the India. So as it was a related topic, we discussed it, and guys, it is highly relevant into the GS paper number 2, child related issues, because their adoption is also one important thing. Now guys, into when we talk about adoption in India, it has many a times criticized because the process is often very much lengthy. There are millions and millions of people who don't have parents, but still the waiting period for adoption can be anywhere from 1 year to 3 years because the slow implementation and slow working speed. So guys, into this particular capacity also huge reforms as well as dovetailing the present structure is needed. So guys, that is all about this particular article and its analysis, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, here this article has been taken from the Mint newspaper, and it is talking about the gender differential into the vaccination for the COVID-19. So yes, this is a new dimension into the gender gap that is coming. Now, it will be very much important for the social issues into the GS paper number 1 as well as in GS paper number 2 also it can be utilized. See guys, when we see here into this particular graph, we can see the vaccinations that had happened for the men vis-a-vis the women. Now into the initial month, that is into the January, you can see that the vaccination for the women was more than the men. Here is one reason here. Why? Because into the care industry, into the frontline industry, the role of the nurses, it is majorly played by the women. So here more women were getting vaccinated. But as we saw into the upcoming months, we can simply see that now more and more male are getting vaccinated and women are being left behind. And guys, here we can see that into the month of the May, the differential between the men and the women with respect to the vaccination has hugely increased. So the gender differences can even be seen here. So it could be a very good reference here. Now guys, after that, what are the important reasons that the women are being left behind? So the reason number one, guys, that comes is, you might be knowing that the vaccination is being carried by the COVID platform, which is a tech interface. And into India, when we talk about the technology adoption, women has been far behind than the men, particularly into the rural areas as well as into the backward states. Now guys, here there are certain references also which has been given. Now guys, here if we see take the example of the state of Bihar, then we can see that in 2019-20, according to the National Family Health Survey, it was seen that only 51% of the women, they had the accessibility of the phone for themselves, which they can use also. Now out of this 51% women, only 49% are there who can read the SMS, and even there is less of the women who can operate the internet. So into this particular case, guys, when the women are the head of the house, or when the women are alone without any male's company, they are finding very much hard to enroll for the vaccination. So this is one particular reason. Moreover, guys, we also know this particular thing, that the COVID interface is into the English. So the language is also becoming a barrier, because the education with respect to the knowability of English is also very much less into the women, into the rural areas, into the backward states, etc. So the tech interface is becoming a problem here. Then guys, the second thing comes is the vaccine hesitancy, which actually is higher into the women when compared into the male. Guys, into this particular capacity, the surveys have been carried into the state of Tamil Nadu, Punjab and Andhra Pradesh, and it has been found that vaccine hesitancy was high into the women when compared to the men. Now, the reason for this particular thing is also the education level, the information and communication which is actually reaching to the women is also very much less, because the accessibility with respect to the news sources, etc. is limited into the women. Then the third issue that comes is that, guys, many a times women are not comfortable to go out to the vaccination centers when particularly they are far away without the company. And many a times women are not having that company. Now, when the male are concerned, male are more comfortable even alone to visit the vaccination centers, etc. So therefore, the men are getting more vaccinated. So guys, here the sociological company also plays a very important role. Then the next thing comes is again the same thing only, that is the social circle of the women is less compared to the male. So guys, these are the reasons that the gender differential into the vaccination is coming. So I hope, guys, if a particular question into this particular dimension might be coming into the GS paper number 2, even the possibility on such line is there into the GS paper number 4 also, because guys, from 2019 we can see that such kind of questions are being asked. So that is all about this article. I hope you have understood, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, friends, this particular article here, we will be clubbing the two articles. Both have been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it can be utilized for the GS paper number 2 into the federal irritants or the federal disputes, particularly the center-state relations. Now see, guys, first of all, this particular matter is a little bit politicized also. So into that political issue, we don't need to go. However, some conceptual things are there that we will be seeing. Now, before going into these two articles, we will be taking up some of the basic information. See, recently, you might be knowing that the cyclone Yas made the landfall into the India. Now, into this particular aftermath, what happened? On 28th of July, the Prime Minister held a review meet. And into this particular review meet, the West Bengal Chief Minister as well as the West Bengal Chief Secretary, they were expected to come. Now, there are the reports that first of all, they came late and they kept the Prime Minister waiting. And after that, altogether, the West Bengal Chief Secretary as well as the Chief Minister, they left the meeting. Now, it has been said that it is actually in violation of the protocol and in violation of the established rules. So therefore, what happened? The West Bengal Chief Secretary, he was sent a notice by the DOPT, that is the Department of Personnel and Training, and he was asked that within 3 days, that is by 31st May, he should report to the DOPT's office into the North Block, Delhi. So this was the thing which has happened, episode number 1. Now guys, as all this thing was happening, what happened on 30th of May, just one day before, the West Bengal Chief Secretary, he took a retirement. Now guys, before all this thing happened, even a 3-month extension was given to the West Bengal Chief Secretary. So he refused that extension also and he took a retirement. And then immediately he was appointed as the chief advisor to the Chief Minister of West Bengal. Now all this particular matter was seen into the political light, and guys, because of this thing, the central government was actually infuriated, and what happened, they sent a show cause notice to the Chief Secretary of West Bengal under the Disaster Management Act. So guys, this Disaster Management Act now is into the news and we will see it. So what has happened, the show cause notice has been sent, which means that you need to tell that why you didn't, why the inquiry or why the action should not be taken against you. You have failed to abide by the direction of the DOPT. So this was the show cause notice. So this notice has been sent under the section number 51 subclause B of the Disaster Management Act, which says that if any functionary, if any official refuses to comply with an order given under the Disaster Management Act, or if he obstructs it, then he could be charged and an imprisonment would be there, a punishment could be there. This imprisonment could be for 1 year, and if there is a loss of life into this particular process, then it can further be extended for 2 more years. So guys, the maximum punishment of 3 years could be there under the section number 51 subclause B, under which the show cause notice has been sent to the West Bengal Chief Secretary. Now, here a kind of a question is coming that actually such kind of harsh measure or such kind of a thing is warranted or not. So it has been said, and even there are many of the retired civil servants who are of an opinion that such precedence has not been existing into the India, and it is a very harsh and a kind of a unilateral measure that has been taken by the central government. Moreover guys, it has been said that this entire Disaster Management Act of 2005 was enacted after the tsunami which came in 2004, and never into these 15-16 years it was utilized. For the first time the Disaster Management Act was utilized was in 2020, and by the virtue of Disaster Management Act, the lockdown was only announced, and many of the directions with respect to if you will not wearing the mask and all such kind of things which were coming were because of it. And now again it has been used by the central government to arm twist the officials as well as a particular state government. So guys, this is just a kind of a viewpoint that is coming. Guys, just keep this section 51B of Disaster Management Act into your mind, because into the center-state relations, center-state disputes, this could be an example that you can utilize without politicizing it, because many a times into the center-state relations we are only using the water, basically river water disputes and all such kind of thing, but they are very old. So that is all about this article. I hope you have understood it. Guys, please don't go too much into this, because then it will not be utilizable for the UPSC. So that is, and now we'll be going to the next article. Now guys, taking up the article, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it is talking about the increasing instances of the child labor into the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this article can be utilized into the GS paper number 2, social justice, children related issues. Now, first of all guys, as the COVID-19 pandemic started, there were certain things which happened. Number one, the schools, they were closed, and as the schools were closed, children were not able to attend the school. Now, before the pandemic, India's gross enrollment ratio was reaching nearly 100% for the primary level education. And now it has been said that once the school will be opening, it will not be at that rate. So many of the children who had dropped, and now never they will be returning to the school. Secondly guys, what happened? The parents, their incomes also declined. And now, first of all, they are not able to afford the education. And secondly, even they had sent the children into the child labor to substitute the family incomes which have been fell down. So therefore, the instances of child labor will be increasing. And guys, it has been said that right now, into this particular decade, there are 152 billion child laborers into the world. 73 million are into the hazardous ventures, hazardous industries, and a substantial portion of them is into the India. And guys, when we talk about the child labor, it is a very problematic thing. Why? Because there are multiple problems into the short term as well as long term. First of all, many a times when they are working into the hazardous conditions into the factories, they are inhaling the dangerous fumes. Many a time they are exposed to the danger which might lead to a kind of a disability or a lifelong problem. Then there are the long-term issues. See, as I discussed that right now we are passing from the demographic dividend window. Now it has been said that in order to reap the demographic dividend, our workforce needs to be having the skills, they should have vocations, they should be educated so that they can contribute into the high paying jobs. Now it has been said actually that if you do the take the education for one extra grade, your incomes can be increased by the virtue of 8 to 10%. So simply if you are a 10th pass and if you are a 12th pass, your income differential will be huge. And now as the children are leaving the education and they are going into the labor, their in earning potential will be decreased. So that is all the issue that is here. Then guys, it has been said into the article that actually the year 2001 to 2011 was a good period because the reduction into the child labor was very much huge, and the success is due to three important government initiatives. Number one is the MG Narega. Now by the MG Narega, the people, they got employment even into the rural areas, guaranteed 100 days employment was there, family incomes got increased, and they put their children into the school. Second is the Right to Education Act, by which the guaranteed right for the education was given. Then the midday meal scheme, which aims to provide cooked meals to the children into the school. So guys, these three are the historic steps that were taken by the government, and it reduced the child labor. And into the recent times, we had actually agreed to the ILO's convention number 138 and 182. So convention number 138 is about the minimum age of labor, and 182 talks about the worst form of child labor. Now these two are among the 8 core conventions of the ILO. India had ratified it, and into this particular direction we have also started to take steps. For example, we amended in 2016 the Child Labor Act. Now after that, even there is the pencil portal which has been started by the government, which is an online platform. And here guys, the government at different levels, the agencies at the district level, state level, national level, they can coordinate with each other to reduce the instances of the child labor. Even there is the provision that the complaint with respect to the child labor can be put. Then there is also the provision with respect to the child tracking system. So all such kind of things are possible onto the pencil portal. Then guys, further it has been said that now into the last 10 years, that is from 2010 to 2020, the reduction has been less, and just in last 3-4 years the reduction has slowed to just 2 by third. And now as the lockdown has been imposed from 2020, there are further instances that the success will be backtracked. Now it has been said that guys, what has happened particularly into the education with the coming of the pandemic, the online education has become a norm, and in India the digital divide is very much huge, and because of that also the children are dropping from the school and they are entering into the child labor. Now guys, here we can see that there was the NSS report, that is the National Sample Survey report number 585, and it was titled as the household social consumption on education in India. It says only 24% of the Indian households had access to an internet facilities, and 15% were into the rural areas, rural households, and 42% were into the urban areas. So number one, very much less people have the internet accessibility, and here also the rural-urban divide is very much stark. So you can see that what might be the condition of the children into the rural areas. Further guys, the annual status of education report ASER 2020 had also highlighted that 1/3 of the total enrolled children into the schools and the receiving the online education, they just 1/3 had received any learning material from their teachers during the reference period. So therefore the digital education is not very much comprehensive, is not representative of the poor children. So therefore there are many of the issues into the child welfare which are to be looked on, particularly for the child labor. And guys, the 2021 year is being celebrated as the international year for the elimination of the child labor. So on to this particular year, the governments across the world and government across the different tiers into the India should come together and needs to take the concrete steps. So that is all guys into this particular direction. Now as this particular thing has been taken, guys, there are certain stats also into the article which now I will be talking about. So guys, when we talk about the number of child labor in India, according to the census of 2011, there are 10.1 million children who are working, and they are into the age group of 5 to 14 years. So please keep it in mind, 10.1 million. You can put it into your answers. Further guys, 8.1 million of them are into the rural areas. So again, the urban rural divide is very much stark. Further guys, according to the UNESCO, it has been said that 38.1 million children in India are out of school. So this is also an important data that can be utilized. So guys, these are some of the important stats. Please keep it into the mind. Please note them down. So that is all about this article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it is talking about the Reserve Bank of India's monetary policy, which is a topic under the GS paper number 3. Now guys, this the substantial fact are not too much here. Now, the article starts from the premise that into the times of economic crisis, there is monetary policy which is most times utilized. And in India, the Reserve Bank of India is the major driver of the monetary policy. Now, it has been provided here that when the lockdown started, what began? The Reserve Bank of India, number one step, immediately lowered the repo rate. Now, the repo rate is that particular rate on which the Reserve Bank of India is giving the money to the bank. Now, if the repo rate will be reduced, there is a basic assumption that the bank also will reduce their interest rate, because now the money for the banks will be cheap. So this particular thing was done by the assumption that when the interest rates will go down, more people will borrow the money. They will use that particular money for the investment purpose. They will use that money to enhance their business and all such kind of things, and the economy will revive. Then the second thing that was done by the Reserve Bank of India was that it also gave the LTRO, that is the long-term repo operations. Now, what are LTRO? Now, guys, I explained you the repo rate. Now, the repo, under the repo facility, the money that is being given to the bank, it is usually for the overnight purposes. In some of the cases, these repo agreements can be enhanced to 7 days or 14 days, and in some very rare cases up to 28 days. Now, under the LTRO, the bank had said, the RBI had said actually to the banks that now, as there is some financial crunch, you can take the money under the repo for 1 year to 3 years, so that continued money supply is there with you. Now, why this particular thing was important, I will tell you the reason. See guys, actually how the banks receive the money. Either they receive the money when people are depositing their money into the bank, or second way is that the banks earlier had given the loans and now people are paying back their loans. So by that the bank is getting the money two major ways. But you might be recalling that into the 2020, when the lockdown was announced, there was also the moratorium onto the repayments, loan repayments. It was said that the people not need to pay their EMIs to the banks. So from this particular source, no money was coming. Then guys, as this was the time of crisis, basically many people were into the house, they were not getting their money, their salaries. So people also started to withdraw money from the bank. So in order to keep the bank with excess of the liquidity, these LTROs were given. Then thirdly, what happened? Basically the Reserve Bank of India also tried to enhance the liquidity by reducing the cash reserve ratio. Fine. And then finally guys, the emergency credit line guarantee scheme was also brought down. Guys, if you remember, then just 2 days back, that is on to the 31st of May, we have discussed this emergency credit line guarantee scheme, where the collateral free loans, the guaranteed loans will be provided by the banks and the guarantor will be the government. So 26 stressed sectors were helped by this particular thing. Now, further guys, the article says that though all such kind of things were done, but actually onto the ground, nothing respite came. The reason was this, that guys, first of all, success point is this, that the RBI reduced the repo rate, banks also reduced their interest rate. So there was the transmission mechanism. But you just think, when the lockdown is there, where the money will be utilizing, where the person will be utilizing the money when he is taking the loan. He cannot expand its production facility. He cannot use that particular money for any other kind of purpose. So this was the thing that was happening. So the article simply advocates that in some of the times like these, the monetary policy might not be able to perform its task. So therefore, it is needed that government should have enough of the tools into its fiscal policy also. So here the monetary policy failed. So guys, such kind of things needed to be thought by the government as well as economists. So that is all that has been provided into this article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper as well as from the Mint newspaper, and it is talk about the recent foreign ministers virtual meet for the BRICS that has happened. Now guys, this BRICS virtual foreign ministers meet was there to make the ground for the virtual annual summit that will be happening into the month of September. Now, first of all, if we talk about the BRICS, so there is some basic information that we will be taking first. Now guys, number one, the BRICS stand for Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. The acronym BRICS was given by the James O'Neill, who was a prominent economist at the Goldman Sachs. What he says that these economies, when come together, they have huge potential to usher the economic reforms as well as to bring the regional cooperation. Now guys, when we talk about BRICS, it has the annual summits every year, and the chair for 2021 is held by the India. Now guys, originally into the BRICS there were just 4 countries. It was actually BRIC: Brazil, Russia, India and China, and South Africa actually joined in 2010. Now BRICS, it actually entails 40% of the world population and 30% of the global GDP. Now guys, the BRIC, it started to meet informally in 2006, and the formal summits, they started from 2009. The first formal summit was into the Russia, and since then on to the rotational basis, the summits are being held. Now, under the BRICS, there are 3 channels of diplomacy by which the cooperation is achieved. One is the track 1 diplomacy. Now, the track 1 diplomacy is one where the government to government interaction is happening. Then there is a track 2 diplomacy. Here, the institutions, organizations, NGO, they interact with each other. Then there is a track 3 diplomacy where the people to people cooperation, people to people engagements are there. Under the BRICS, all 3 tracks of diplomacy are taken up. Now guys, when we talk about this foreign ministers virtual summit that has happened, see, it has been here aimed that the countries will be coming together, and number one aim will be the reform of the multilateral institutions. So they will be working for the reform of the United Nations, IMF, World Bank, WTO as well as WHO, because it is believed that the interest of the emerging countries is not being taken into the account. These institutions are not actually very much democratic. So for their reforms, the cooperation will be there. Then guys, it has been said that all the countries will be into the BRICS will be coming together to ensure that there is a timely availability of the life-saving drugs for the COVID-19. There are other kind of vaccines and essential medicines that are needed. Then it has also been said that the South Africa as well as India, they came together and they put a proposal that with respect to the vaccine and all such associated things, there should not be any intellectual property right. A waiver should be there under the WTO and TRIPS. Now this particular thing has even been supported by the countries such as US. So this was a kind of a major milestone by the countries such as India. Then it has been said that with respect to the vaccine technology transfer needs to be there. There needs to be the mechanism under which we can ensure that all the countries are having sufficient vaccine to vaccinate their people. Then with respect to the pricing, there needs to be transparency, and all the implementation of the associated measures need to be there. So guys, all such kind of thing has happened. However, rather than this, more important will be the September annual summit which will be going to be happen. So that is all about this article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now friends, this particular article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and this particular article is simply talking that why into the last year, that is 2020-21, there was a record number of FDI that came. So guys, actually what had happened just a few days back, there was a press release by the government which said that because of the government's steps, ease of doing business, etc., the FDI increased in India. After that, there was the RBI's report which was also published. Now guys, when we see the report, it can actually be seen that what is the actual breakup of the money that has come. Now guys, FDI is different from the gross FDI. So gross FDI includes all the money that is coming via the different channels which are associated with the investment that is coming. So what has happened, guys, here a kind of a critical analysis has been made into the RBI's report, and it has been said that rather than the FDI, actually FPI has been increased in India, and FPI is actually responsible to show this particular kind of surge. And it is actually the scene that FPI is not that much stable it is not that much stable when compared with the FDI. So there is nothing to be happy. Fine. So guys, here just they are exploring the numbers, the data, etc., which is actually not at all important for your UPSC examination. Now coming to the difference between the FDI and FPI. Now see, if there is Mr. A, now Mr. A is an American citizen. He want to invest some money into India. What he can do? Suppose there is one company and the name of company is ABC Corporation. Now this particular person can invest money and can buy some of the share of this particular corporate. Fine, he will not take any ownership, he will not take any management, just he will take the share. When the share price will increase, he will just sell the share and will go back, will just take their profit. Another way is this, that there is then another person, Mr. B. He can also invest the money into the ABC company, but he might take even the ownership. He might take even the management. Now, obviously, to take the ownership, to take the management, much more money is to be invested into the corporation. Now, guys, the reason is this, that when Mr. A is investing the money, his money is having a nature that it is the hot money. Whenever he will see that market is going down, suddenly he will withdraw the money and will go back. Now, the nature of the money that Mr. B has spent, he cannot withdraw it suddenly. Is it clear? Because he had taken the ownership, he has taken the management rights, and even the full capital account convertibility is also not there into the India. So there are certain problems. So it is said that actually into the perspective of India, the B's money is more beneficial, FDI is more beneficial. Now guys, actually there is no any formal definition for the FDI and FPI also. According to the Arvind Mayaram committee, if any person is actually investing more than 10% into the more than 10% into a company's total stock holding, then it will be called as FDI. And if it is less than 10%, then it will be FPI. So less than 10% is FPI, more than 10% is FDI. I hope this is clear. So guys, this is just the point here. You might skip this article also if you want, nothing too much relevant. So that is all, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, these two articles have been there into the Hindu newspaper. It is talking about the abolition of China's two-child policy, and in its place the three-child policy had come. However guys, this entire issue has been discussed into the yesterday's newspaper discussion, that is the 1st of June. You can see it. All the points that we have discussed are there only here in this article. So guys, this is all about the today's newspaper analysis. I hope that you have understood it all, and this initiative is proving to have some utility for you. Thank you so much.